Released in 2020, SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Wrecked proved popular with over 2 million copies sold. Publisher THQ Nordic called the game a fantastic success and decided that the audience SpongeBob needs a second part. The sequel, which creator called a spiritual sequel, not so fancy name, SpongeBob SquarePants The Cosmic Shake, but the pleasure it brings no less than the original. SpongeBob and Patrick naively get into another mess. They meet the sorceress Cassandra in Bikini Bottom, who hands them a bottle with tears of a mermaid and promises that with this little thing you can become anything you want and get anything you wish. The guys made their wish, but after the Bikini Bottom was plunged into chaos, the building disappeared, the inhabitants were scattered among the different worlds, and the hostility creatures began to storm along the streets. SpongeBob was not hurt, but Patrick was. He turned into a balloon, so he constantly accompanies his best friend, both in gameplay episode and in the story. You can play as Patrick unlike the last part, where there were 3 playable characters. Here you can only play the story as a Bob. Bikini Bottom series as a hub to which we return after each outing and from where we go to other worlds. Compared to the last game, the city is noticeably brighter here. Back then they obviously tried to make it look like the version from the animated series, but in the sequel they added colors. Plus, as you go through it, it gets more and more lively with the return of the characters and buildings. But most of all, I want to praise the rest of the worlds, dramatically different from each other. You will have to visit the Pirate Lagoon, the Halloween Rock Bottom, the Fields of Jellyfish, decorated in the style of the Wild West, and other locations, a total of 7 zones. Each has its own peculiarities. In the primary region, you often have to ride a big boulder on lava rivers. In the movie studio, you have to stand and look for hiding paparazzi. Not all locations are equally beautiful. The primary ones seems to have been created at the last minute. It's good that it's not the final one in the story, but most of them are very good. Journey through each of the worlds take about an hour, and it feels like you watch another episode of the animated series. Videos are high quality, absurd and funny, jokes around, and cross-dressing characters. Never kiss too much. Squidward as a director, Karate Kid Sandy, Princess Pearl Crabs, a lot of reference and memes have not forgotten. In the levels, try to make more variety. Then you fight with someone, then you solve a puzzle, then begins the chase or the rapid descent down a slope with obstacles. There are no new ideas for the genre, and the task can be a hit sometimes. For example, you will be asked to collect a lot of items in the location or to knock on the doors of Rock Bottom to get the 5 candies from the locals. However, it doesn't get boring. You always know that the next scene will probably be something more amazing. My main complaint about the location is the presence of dead ends due to the lack of any ability. Exploring the region, jumping from platform to platform, stepping off the main path to get somewhere, and there's either a lock waiting for you, or a button with the image of skill you haven't learned. Therefore, if the first 2 locations I tried to actively vacuum cleaner, the following have not been engaged in this. Still do not remember where to go back. And when the game was over, to revisit all the levels is not very desirable, although they are fun tests. And for the most part, to look for collectibles is unnecessary. The only type of prize here are SpongeBob costumes. You give a new look before entering each of the worlds, and if you collect gold doubles, you can buy even more clothing items in the main menu. They are a ghost look, and Bob in his underwear and more. Maybe kids will enjoy dressing up the character. Some of the looks are very funny, but they had more enough story concerns. So, the Cosmic Shake turned out not to be a collecton subgenre game where you look under every bush looking for secrets, but a three-dimensional platformer with an emphasis on a fun story. If you then want to go back to the old worlds and completely clear them, there will be a new entertainment. But without dialogues and clips, the experience will not be the same. It's hard to call it a minus. The 8-hour adventure was very colorful. I laughed at some of the jokes, and overall the game looks like a gift for fans. What may slightly tire by the end of the passage is the battles with jelly monsters. The author seems to have tried to make sure that this doesn't happen. In each world they add 1 or 2 new types of enemies, and SpongeBob learns new tricks. He realized bubbles and lock his opponents in them, or kick them in the air and bounce away from the target. But still you get tired of some opponents, especially because their design does not change. For example, the muscular strongman. Banging the top on the ground is found in the second half of the game in almost every arena, and the tactics is always the same. You wait for him to hit, and then you hit, and then repeat 2 more times. Or the jelly slide, which emits a wave when wounded and created minions. You see it in every one of the 7 worlds, but the bosses are different, and it's interesting to fight them, even if they are easy to defeat. The difficulty here is very low at all. SpongeBob has 4 health units, but no lives. If you get mortality wounded, you are revived near the last heal point, and they are generously spaced. There are not penalties, not even the currency you need to buy customs is taken away. SpongeBob SquarePants, The Cosmic Shake, is a textbook 3D platformer that brings nothing new to the genre. But it didn't have to do that. The main thing is for the SpongeBob fans to like it. It copes with the text perfectly, there are references and humor, and everything is done with a great love for the animated series. So to sum up, pros of the game is a great recreation of Bikini Bottom with dozens of female characters, diverse worlds with their own challenges and mechanisms, fun, albeit simple battles with bosses, costumes to suit every taste for the main character, and great humor in the spirit of the animated series. At cons is unfortunately primary world. Exploring location without access to all abilities is almost pointless, and enemy starts to get boring by the end of the game. So, if you like SpongeBob, I highly recommend to try this game.